In this lesson, we will evaluate algebraic expressions. This is the third example if you're following me on algebraclass.com. So this problem is great because it's actually going to teach us two things. The first is that notice how in this problem I have an algebraic expression and I actually have the variable x and y twice. So not just once, but twice. And when this happens, we need to make sure that we substitute the given value. So for x is equal to 5. We need to make sure that we substitute this value for x in both places, not just one, but both. And the same for y. So that's one thing. The other is that notice that this is a fraction bar with an expression in the numerator and in the denominator. And that means that our fraction bar is acting as a grouping symbol, which means that everything in the numerator is grouped together and everything in the denominator is also grouped together. So we need to evaluate the numerator and the denominator separately. So let's start with x equals 5. And where we see the variable x, I'm going to substitute 5. So that would be 2, and then I'm going to have times 5 for x in the numerator squared, and then I'm going to substitute 1 for y. Now notice how there's no symbols between the 2 and the x, or the x squared, and between the x squared and the y. And when you're working in algebra with variables, if you do not have any operational symbol, meaning a plus sign, a minus sign, multiplication, or division, if there's nothing there, it always indicates multiplication. And when you substitute into your algebraic expression, you then need to include the operational symbol because we no longer have variables, but we have numbers. And we need those symbols when we're working with numbers because if not, this would look like 25 squared. So here when I substitute for y, I also need to make sure that I put in the multiplication symbol to show that I'm multiplying by 1. Alright, so that is the numerator. And then in the denominator, I have x equals 5. And then I have minus 1, which is y. So this is my new numerical expression. And now I can go ahead and use the order of operations to go ahead and evaluate. Now again, this fraction bar indicates a grouping symbol, so I need to group everything in the numerator together. Therefore, I'm going to go ahead and evaluate the numerator first. So in the numerator, I have no parentheses, but I have exponents. So I'm going to rewrite this as 2 times 5 squared, which is 25, times 1. And I'm just going to go ahead and keep my denominator the same. And now I'm going to continue in the numerator. I'm just focusing on the numerator. 2 times 25 is 50, and then 50 times 1 is still 50. So I have 50 in the numerator. And now that I'm done completely evaluating the numerator, I can focus on the denominator, which is pretty easy. 5 minus 1 is 4. So now I have 50 divided by 4, which happens to be, or I can actually simplify this if I would choose to, which most of the time you do want to simplify and put your answer in lowest terms. So if I divide 50 and 4 both by 2, I would end up with 25 halves. And I could leave my answer as an improper fraction, or I could change it to a mixed number, which would be 12 and a half, or 12 and a half written this way. Okay, so any of these 3 ways is okay for your final answer. So just remember that fraction bar is a grouping symbol. Group your numerator and denominator separately. And if you have more than one variable, you need to make sure that you substitute the given value for each variable.